Tell me that I can, I tell them why not. This is my calling, I'ma make it last. I'ma set them more than a conqueror.
Okay guys, a couple of weeks ago I posted a picture up on my Instagram of some macro friendly vanilla and caramel cheesecake that I made. Now people wanted to know exactly how I made this, and I did promise if there were enough likes and demand that I would make the video, so here it is. Okay, so here's a picture of all the ingredients. So first of all, let's get the base sorted. So I'm using all Bran cereal flakes. So I've put the bowl that I'm going to mash these up in on top of some scales. So you want 50 grams of all Bran flakes. Okay, once you've measured that out, all you're going to do is you are going to crush this up. Okay, so you want it to be nice and fine, like a cheesecake base. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and mash that all up until it's a nice fine powder. The reason I chose Bran flakes as a base is because they're very low fat and they're also fairly low in carbohydrates as well. What I did notice afterwards is that it does give a bit of a bread-like flavour. So what you might want to do, I add applesauce to this, but what you might want to do is add some more Splenda into the base mix as well. Remember to change the macros, because the Splenda will change the macros very slightly. It's about 1 carb per teaspoon of Splenda used. Okay, on to the next step. Obviously we're not going to use any butter in this recipe, so a great butter alternative is actually applesauce. So applesauce is great at binding things together. It's also going to give it some extra flavour as well. So I take about a tablespoon of applesauce and I mix that in with the base until you get a kind of more bound, sticky kind of base. What you want to do is mix it and then pat it down until it's flat. And that's what it should look like. Pat it down nice and flat for the topping ready to go on. Okay, the next step is to add a teaspoon of Splenda. I made this for the first time a week before this video, and I found that without the Splenda it tasted quite bread-like, and the Bran flakes together gave it quite a bread-like flavour and consistency. So mixing in the Splenda will just add to the sweetness of the base, making it more like a cheesecake. Okay, next step, everybody's favourite ingredient, cottage cheese. Don't worry, you are not going to taste the cottage cheese at all, so take my word for it. What we're going to want to do is measure out 60 grams of cottage cheese here, and once we've done that, again similar to the all Bran flakes, you're going to want to mash these up. So really go to town on these until you get rid of that, until you get rid of those lumps. You don't want your cheesecake to look like vomit. That's not going to do it for you. So let's get rid of all the lumps, make it nice and smooth. Okay, it's time for our good friend Splenda again. Listen, if you're not fond of Splenda, or you believe all the myths about Splenda being bad, you can use Truvia, stevia, whatever natural sweetener you want to use. Either way, you're going to use sweetener in the cottage cheese, and that's going to be the secret weapon in masking the cottage cheese's taste. Obviously there's going to be some sucralose in the whey protein powder as well, so that's also going to help to mask the taste of the cottage cheese. Okay, the next step is to mix in the fat-free Greek yogurt. So this is another 60 grams that you're adding to the cottage cheese here. So again, you're measuring it out, 60 grams, and then just mix the two together. Once you've done that, it's now time for the whey protein to go in. So remember, whichever flavor you use is going to be the flavor of the of the topping of the cheesecake. So if you want vanilla, use vanilla. If you have a different favorite flavor, use whichever flavor you prefer. If after you've mixed the mixture you're finding that it's a little bit too thick, remember you don't want it too liquidy because we are going to put this in the oven and bake it as well. But if you find it's really thick and tough, you can thin it out very slightly with some almond milk like I've just done here. As an option you can add some vanilla flavouring as well, just a small dash, just to enhance the flavour. You can also add some applesauce as well to the mixture to enhance the flavour, to help with binding. Again, that's optional. Don't forget that your cheesecake won't turn out right unless you've got a chihuahua chilling like a boss in the back of the video. Okay, once you're all done, you just put the mixture on top of the base, and similarly with the Bran flakes, you just literally pat it down until it's nice and flat. Okay, we are now ready for this to go in the oven. With the oven settings, I've seen recommendations for a few different settings. Initially you want to put your oven on a higher setting, just keep an eye on it. I found when I put it on too high that the edges started burning a bit too much. So go with your own preference. For about half an hour you want to put it on a higher setting, and then you want to turn the heat right down and let it sit there for another sort of half an hour to an hour. Use a toothpick to see if it's ready. Then you're going to need to cool it for about at least a minimum of 4 hours. You can leave it overnight and have it the next day. This was cooled here for about 3 or 4 hours. And the next step is to put some of that sexy caramel Walden's Farm sauce all over the top of it. Go wild with this, it's calorie free. Turned out good. 2 weeks out as well. Eating cheesecake at 2 weeks out. Serious. Okay, so vanilla and caramel cheesecake. This is very macronutrient friendly. We're looking at protein 37 grams. We're looking at total fat at a measly 3 grams. And you're looking at total carbohydrates, which is fairly moderate at 55 grams. So I'd probably save this for a refeed day or a high carbohydrate day. This is very filling, and another great thing about it is that the dietary fiber is at 8 grams, so it's very healthy. There are very many different ways that you can make adjustments to this, so you can use a different base. I've made this using low-fat Digestives, which comes out much tastier. You're adding a tiny bit more fat, but that's about it. The carbohydrates actually stay very similar. Protein, you can add more protein powder to it. You can use different cheeses. You can actually use some low-fat Philadelphia cheese. That will thicken it up, and you can sweeten it again with some Splenda. There's not so much you can do about the carbohydrates. You can have the cheesecake without a base. That will make the carbs a little bit less, because most of the carbohydrates are from the base. So if you just want the topping of the cheesecake, feel free to take out the base. Alright, I'm going to hit you back with some more cheesecake variations soon, as well as things like ice cream and different types of meals that are macro friendly but are awesome tasting. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this.